Welcome pre-cal students to the homework help video, page 475. Let's go ahead and get started here with the problems for today. Here we go. Problem number 41. Okay, let's graph this. First of all, let's take the argument, which is right here, set it equal to 0 and solve. And there's no solving to do, so there's the vertical asymptote. Pretty simple. Okay, next, let's write our table of values here. And let's decide whether the graph is going to be over here or over here. Okay, so think about it, students. If you put -1 in for x, you would have the logarithm of a negative number. So we know we can't have that, so there's no way we're going to be to the left of this asymptote. We're going to be to the right over here. So we're going to go barely past the asymptote. We're going to put 0.1 in, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in your calculator, go ahead and go to zoom, the middle top button, zoom, and then push option 6 to get a good window, a standard window, and then go ahead and hit y equals, top left button. Okay, and let's go ahead and enter this into our calculator. It would look like this. You would hit log button, and then the argument, which is x, then close the parentheses. If you don't close the parentheses, you're going to miss it, okay? Then divided by, and then log, and then 4, which is your base, and then close the parentheses, okay? And if you do that correctly, we can go ahead and go to the tables. And for our table, we should get, here we go, 1 would be 0, 2 would be, I can't see here, hold on one second, 0.5, 3 would be 0.79 or 0.8, and 4 would be 1. Okay, so there we go. Now 0.1, go ahead and clear your screen and come out of the graphing mode and go completely to your entire blank screen. And then once you do that, go ahead and put 0.1 in for x. So you really have log base 4 of 0.1. Okay, so you type in your calculator log of 0.1, close the parentheses, divided by log of 4, close the parentheses, enter, and you will get -1.66, -1.7. And let's go ahead and graph this real quick here. 0.1 is -1.7, 1 is 0, 2 is a half, 3 is 0.8, 4 is 1. So there we go, pretty good picture of the graph here. Okay. And now very quickly, let's find the domain. The domain would be everything to the right of 0. So x is greater than 0. The vertical asymptote would be, well, x equals 0, because that's where the dotted line is, 0. And then the x-intercept would be whatever x value gives you 0 for y. And it's right here. When you put in 1 for x, you get 0 for y. So the x-intercept is 1. Okay, moving on to 43. Here we go. Okay, now remember, students, there's no parentheses around the x plus 2. So your argument is not x plus 2. Your argument is just x. Okay, so take your argument, set it equal to 0 and solve. No solving to do, so our vertical asymptote is at 0. Okay, very simple. Okay, now students, think about it. There's no way the graph's going to be over here, because if you put a -1 in for x, you would have the logarithm of a negative number. And we can't do that, okay? So the graph's going to be over here to the right, this way. Okay, so go into our table of values here. And we know that we're going to go barely to the right of the asymptote, so 0.1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I want to warn you about something, students. Be very careful about typing this into your calculator, okay? Now go ahead and hit your y equals button, top left button, okay? And now here's how I would type this in. Whenever you have a number hanging out at the end here to the right, I would put it to the front. It's a lot easier to enter into your calculator that way, so I would rewrite this function like this. y equals, put your positive 2 first, and then minus log base 3 of x. And that's really how you should enter it into your calculator. So in your calculator, I would hit 2, then minus, then hit log, and then what's your argument? X, so put x, be sure and close the parentheses, then divided by log, and then what's your base? 3, be sure and close the parentheses, okay? And that's what it should look like right there, okay? All right, let me go ahead and get my calculator all set up here. Hold on one second. Let's see here. And table of values would look like this. 1 would give you a 2, 2 would give you a 1.4, 3 would give you a 1, and 4 would give you a 0.74. Now 0.1, let's go ahead and type it in real quick, guys, okay? We would have negative log base 3 of 0.1 plus 2. Now here's how it enters into your calculator, guys. I would do this. I would first of all, now please listen to me, I would clear your screen, come out of your graphing mode completely, okay? Have a blank screen. I would forget the negative sign for a second, and I would forget the positive 2 for a second, okay? I would first of all just find the log base 3 of 0.1. So the first thing I would do is I would enter into my calculator log of 0.1, okay, divided by log of 3. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now on my screen. So log 0.1 divided by log of 3. Okay, hit enter, and then you'll get this. When you hit enter, you'll get negative 2.095903.274. I would then hit times negative 1, because there's really a negative 1 right here. So hit times negative 1, enter, and then hit plus 2, enter. And if you do that correctly, you will get this right here, 4.1. 4.0959, so 4.1. Okay? Now, if that's a little confusing, back the video up and listen to that again, okay? It's really important you know how to do that. Okay, 0.1 is at 4.1, right here. 1 is over 1 up 2. 2 is at 1.4. 3 is at 1. And 4 is at 0.74. So there's the graph. Pretty good graph. Okay. Now, we never found the x-intercepts. We got to do that next here. Well, first of all, let's do this, I guess. There. Now, let's get us some room here. First of all, the domain would be x is greater than 0. Okay? And the vertical asymptote would be x equals 0. Now, the x-intercept. This is not going to be easy, okay? So here we go. In order to find the x-intercept, you put 0 in for y. So 0 equals negative log base 3 of x plus 2. Bring the 2 over, make it a negative 2. That's easy enough. Now, divide both sides by a negative 1 to get rid of this negative sign and get rid of this negative sign here. So divide both sides by a negative 1. Now write it exponentially. And there you go, 9. Okay, so eventually way out here at 9, right here at 9, the graph would eventually come down and hit the x-axis right there. So the x-intercept is 9. Okay, not too bad. Number 45. Okay. Let's take our argument set equal to 0 and solve. So x plus 2 equals 0. Bring your 2 over and make it a negative 2. And there's your vertical asymptote, negative 2. Okay. There we go. Now, next table of values. Now, would we go to the left or to the right? Well, let's see. Put a negative 3 in for x. Negative 3 plus 2 would give you the logarithm of negative 1. So we know negative 3 is not going to work. So we know we're going to go to the right over here. So now where would this point right here be really close? Now think about it. You're at 0 here. Then you're at negative 1. Then as you get real close to negative 2, it'd be negative 1.9. So we're going to get real close. Negative 1.9. Okay, then we're going to go negative 1, and then 0, then 1, then 2. So we're moving this way. Okay? Alright, now, in your calculator, it's okay to have this negative sign. That's fine. But when you enter this into your calculator, and let me go ahead and get mine set up here. Here's what you would hit, okay? Don't hit the minus the minus button, okay? When you go to enter this into your calculator, do not hit the minus button, hit the negative button. And you'll find that on the very bottom row, okay, the very bottom row to the left of the enter button, okay, to the left of the enter button. And you will see a negative sign there. So you hit negative. Well, first go ahead and push your y equals button, okay? And then, after that, you want to hit negative, and then hit log, and then log of your argument, so x plus 2, divided by, and then log of 6, which is your base. There we go, okay? So if you've entered that correctly, the table of values will be, let me look here, for a negative 1, it would be 0. So good, we found our x-intercept. 0 will be negative, I need glasses here, guys, I can't see. Negative 1 is 0. 0 is negative 0.4. 1 is negative 0.6. And 2 is negative 0.8. Okay, so not a lot of action there, really slow. Alright, here we go. Negative 1.9. Oh, we got to do okay, we have to figure negative 1.9. So here we go. Negative log 6 of negative 1.9 plus 2. Okay, that would give us negative logarithm of base 6 of negative 0.1. Okay? Now, or positive 0.1, sorry. Now, I would not worry about this negative sign here. Just forget about that until the very end. I would type into your calculator log of 0.1, close the parentheses, divided by log of 6. Okay, and close the parentheses. Let me do that real quick. Log of 0.1, close the parentheses, divided by log of 6, and you will get this, negative 1.285. However, there's a negative sign right here, so really you have this with a negative sign here, so it'll be positive 1.3. Okay, so here we go. Negative 1.9 would be positive 1.3, so about right here. And then negative 1 is 0. 0 is at negative 0.4. 1 is at negative 0.6. And then down here. Okay? So here's the graph. Pretty simple. And moving on. Okay? Alright, real quick, the domain would be x is greater than negative 2. The vertical asymptote would be x equals negative 2. And the x-intercept would be, oh, right here, negative 1 gave you out a 0. So, negative 1 is the x-intercept. Negative 1. Okay, moving on to 47. And here we go. Take your argument, set it equal to 0 and solve. Multiply both sides by 5. And there's your vertical asymptote. Okay? Okay, now, obviously we're not going to want to go to the left, because if you put a negative 1 in for x, negative 1 over 5 would be negative 1/5. So we're going to go to the right. Okay? So we're going to put into our table of values 0.1, going barely to the right of the asymptote, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here we go. Now, students, can I point something out to you, please? This is a base 10. Okay, do you see that? Base 10. So if it's a base 10, your calculator does base 10 already. So when you hit y equals, then the next thing you have to type is just log x divided by 5. That's it. Because your calculator does base 10s. It is already a base 10, so just enter it like it is, and you'll be good, okay? So there we go, x divided by 5. Now, if you've done that correctly, here's what your table of values should look like, okay? 1 should be negative 0.7. 2 should be negative 0.4. 3 should be negative 0.2. And 4 should be negative 0.1. And if you go a little further, guys, look at this. Look at this right here. 5, look at your table of values, guys. Look at your table of values. 5 gives you a 0. So that's going to help us find the x-intercept. Okay? Alright, now, putting 0.1 in, we have log base 10 of 0.1 over 5. Okay? Well, students, your calculator does base 10, so just clear your screen, come out of your graphing mode, and just hit log, and then 0.1 divided by 5. And that'll do it. And you should get negative 1.7. Negative 1.7, okay? So here we go. 0.1 is negative 1.7. 1 is negative 0.7. 2 is negative 0.4. 3 is negative 0.2. Here, and 5 is 0 right there. So there we go. Okay. Domain would be x is greater than 0. Your vertical asymptote would be x equals 0. And your x-intercept would be 5. Because when you put 5 in, you got out a 0 right here. Okay? Alright, number 49. Notice again, we're dealing with a base 10, so it should be a lot easier to type into our calculator. Okay? So let's take our argument, which is x plus 1, set it equal to 0, and solve. There we go. So your vertical asymptote is at negative 1. Okay? Now, we know we're not going to go to the left, because if you put a negative 2 in right here, you'd have negative 2 plus 1. You would be taking the logarithm of a negative number, negative 1. So, we know we're going to go to the right for our table of values. So, here we go. Okay, now, if you were here at 0, getting close to negative 1, you would go to 0.9. So, negative 0.9. Negative 0.9 gets you really close to the asymptote, okay? And the next would be 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, okay? Okay, let's go ahead and type this into our graph. Remember, it's a base 10, so all you have to do is just hit log x plus 1. That's it, okay? So let's go ahead and do that in the calculator here. And let's see, 0 is 0. That's good. That's the x-intercept. 1 is 0.3, 2 is 0.5, and 3 is 0.6. So there we go. So now for negative 0.9, we would type in log, parentheses, negative 0.9 plus 1. Okay, so here we go, log negative 0.9 plus 1, enter, you get negative 1. Okay, so negative 0.9 is negative 1, 0, 0, 1 is 0.3, 2 is 0.5, and 3 is 0.6. So pretty good idea of the graph, okay? There we go. Okay, the domain would be x is greater than -1. The vertical asymptote would be x equals 1. And the x-intercept would be 0, because when you put 0 in for x, you get a 0 out for y. Okay? All right, moving on to the last 4. These are natural logs. And of course, they're graphed the exact same way. So take your argument, x minus 2, set it equal to 0, and solve. There we go. So vertical asymptote at 2. Okay? Not too difficult. Okay, now, we know we're not going to put a 1 in for x. If we put 1 in for x, 1 minus 2 is -1. So we're taking the natural log of -1. So we know we're going to go to the right for our table of values. So what would this number be right here? Barely going past 2. Will be 2.1. And then of course we'll look at 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? Let's enter this into our calculator here. And it's really easy to do. Just a natural log, and a parenthesis pops up, and then x minus 2. Okay? So here we go. Oh, what do we have here? Let's see here. Alright, sorry for yawning. Let's see what we have here. 3 would be 0. So there's our x-intercept. 4 would be 0.7. 5 would be 1.1. Of course, I'm rounding all of these. 6 would be 1.4. Okay? And how about 2.1? Well, let's see. Natural log of 2.1 minus 2. Okay, let's see what we get. Natural log of 2.1 minus 2. And we're getting -2.3. -2.3. So here we go. We go to 2.1 and down 2.3. About right here. And then 3 would be at 0. 4 would be at 0.7. 5 would be at 1.1. And 6, 1.4. So there we go. Pretty decent curve there. And our domain would be x is greater than 2. Our vertical asymptote would be x equals 2. And then x-intercept would be, well, right here, when you put in 3, you got out a 0. So your x-intercept would be 3. Okay? Okay, moving on to the next to last problem, 85. 85. And I think I said next to last problem, but it's not. It's the second to last problem. Anyways, okay, we take our argument here, -x, set it equal to 0 and solve. And divide both sides by -1, x equals 0. Okay, so our vertical asymptote is 0. So there we go. Okay, now we'll go ahead and put our table of values over here. Now, students, be really careful here, please. You do not want to go to the right. Students, in all the past problems, we've been going to the right every single time. Okay, but not in this problem. Look, if you put a +1 in for x right here, you would get out a -x. Okay? Or a -1, because there's a negative sign right here. However, if you put in a -1 right here for x, there's also a negative sign here, so you would have the natural log of 1. Okay? So, with that in mind, for the first time on this homework assignment, we will be going to the left, this way. Okay? So here we go. First of all, to go barely to the left of this would be negative 0.1. And the next would be negative 1, then negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Okay? Now, enter this into your calculator. Hit your y equals button. Okay, y equals. And then you're going to hit natural log, parentheses, negative x, close your parentheses, okay? And if you do that correctly, let me turn my calculator on here. If you do that correctly, you will have, hold on one second, this for a table of values. You will have negative 1 is 0, negative 2 is 0.7, 3 is 1.1, and negative 4 is 1.4. Next, let's find out what this value right here would be. Let's go ahead and put 0.1 in for x. Negative 0.1, so natural log, negative 0.1. Which would give you the natural log of 0.1. Okay, so natural log of 0.1 would be negative 2.3. So we are good. Here we go. Negative 0.1, negative 2.3. Negative 1 is 0. Negative 2 is 0.7. Negative 3 is 1.1. And negative 4 is negative 1.4. There we go. Okay. Now, let's say domain would be, now watch this, x is less than 0. Okay, less than. We're going to the left. Vertical asymptote would be x equals 0. And the x-intercept would be, right here when you put a negative 1 in, you got a 0, so x-intercept would be negative 1. Okay? Alright, moving on to 87. Okay, take the domain right here and set it equal to 0. Okay? Now this one will be interesting. Let's go ahead and bring the 1 over and make it a positive 1. And then take the square root of both sides. So look what you get. You have a double vertical asymptote, which is pretty cool actually. So we have 1 here. Okay? And then 1 here. Now, we have to see what's going on here. In other words, will there be a graph over here? Will there be 1 here? And will there be 1 here? Maybe there'll be 1 or 2 or 3. So let's find out, okay? First of all, can we put a negative 2 into the equation? Well, yes, we can, because if we put a negative 2 in, squared minus 1, you would get 3. So we know we're going to have a graph over here to the left. So table of values. And here we go. Let's go to the left a little bit. Negative 1.1. And then negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Grab my calculator real quick here. And let's see. Negative 2 would be 1.1. Negative 3 would be 2.1. Negative 4 would be 2.7. And negative 5 would be 3.2. Okay. Now what about negative 1.1? Well, let's see. Natural log of negative 1.1 squared minus 1. So here we go. Natural log of 1.1 squared is 1.21, so I really have the natural log of 1.21 minus 1, and I would get negative 1.6. So here we go. negative 1.1, negative 1.6. Negative 2 would be 1.1, negative 3, 2.1, negative 4, 2.7, and negative 5, 3.2. Okay, so a little slow curve going on there. And we're not done yet. Okay? We're not done. So here we go. Okay? Now, we're going to see if this value here would work if we put a 0 in. Okay, put a 0 in, and you get 0 squared minus 1. And that would give you out the natural log of negative 1. We can't do that. So no graph exists here in the middle. Okay? Now let's try over here. Let's put a 2 in. 2 works fine. Okay, so now we're going to have another table of values for this side over here. So here we go. Change the color a little bit. And here we go. Go a little bit past the 1. So 1.1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. So look at our tables here real quick. And what do we have? 2 would be 1.1. 3 was going to be a mirror reflection, I think. 2.1 for 3. 2.7 for 4. And 3.2 for 5. There we go. And if you put 1.1 in, you would get negative 1.6. So the exact same thing. So here we go. Negative 1.1, negative 1.6. 2 is 1.1. 3 is 2.1. 4 is 2.7. 5 is 3.2. So there we go. Now, how about the domain? Okay, how about the domain? All right, the domain is going to be two pieces. It's going to be x is less than negative 1 and x is greater than 1. Okay. Vertical asymptote would be, well, there's two, negative 1 and positive 1. And now the x-intercept. This is going to be interesting, okay? Let's find the x-intercept. This will be really interesting, actually. So here we go. Okay, remember, students, in order to find the x-intercept, you put 0 in for a y. So 0 goes here. Now remember, students, a natural log is base e, so I really have this log base e of x squared minus 1, and then let's write this exponentially. So bring the e over. It'd be e to the 0 power equals x squared minus 1. Okay? Well, anything to the 0 power is 1. So now I have this. 1 equals x squared minus 1. Now bring the negative 1 over and make it a positive 1. So you'd have 2 equals x squared. And then take the square root of both sides. So plus minus square root of 2 equals x. So there's your x-intercepts. Your x-intercepts would be at square root of 2 and negative square root of 2. So there we go. Alright, moving on to the last one. Okay, students, here we go. Let's go ahead and take our argument, which is just x, and set that equal to 0 and solve. Remember, your argument is not x plus 2, okay? Your argument is just x only. So x equals 0. Nothing to solve, so your vertical asymptote would be at 0. Okay, so there we go. Vertical asymptote is 0. Now, you would not want to go to the left, because that'd be like a natural log of negative 1. Okay, so you want to go to the right. So your table of values would look like this. Go a little bit past 0, and that would be that'd be 0.1, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so go ahead and type this into your calculator, and let's see what we get here. My table is 1 is 2, 2 is 1.3, 3 is 0.9, and 4 is 0.6. Okay, now 0.1 would be, let's see, you would type in your calculator negative sign, the natural log, 0.1, and then plus 2. And you would get out, hold on 1 second. Let's see, 0.1 would be 4.3. Okay, 4.3. So here we go. 0.1 is 4.3. 1 is over 1 up 2. Over 2, 1.3. 3 is 0.9. And 4 is 0.6. Okay, so here we go. And there we go. Okay, now your domain would be x is greater than 0 to the right of 0. Your vertical asymptote would be x equals 0. And now your x-intercept, well, it's nowhere here on your table of values, so we'll have to solve for it real quick. So where the y is here, you put a 0. 0 equals a negative natural log of x plus 2. Bring the 2 over, make it a negative 2. Go ahead and divide both sides by negative 1 to get rid of these negative signs. So 2 equals natural log of x. And then don't forget, guys, the natural log of x really means this. Log base e of x. So go ahead and write this exponentially. So e squared equals x. And then go ahead and type that into your calculator. And you would get 7.4. So your x-intercept is 7.4. So over here somewhere, about right here would hit. Okay, and that's it. Guys, I hope this homework help video has been a help to you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email.